Hello, I am here with your Sunday, March 14th tarot using the Santa Muerte Tarot. I have done an extensive pre-shuffle and now we ask for our message. Our message is for Sunday, March 14th. Happy Daylight Savings Time. Not. I'm not a fan of losing this hour. I do like the extra hour of light in the evening, but I don't like getting up that hour earlier in the morning or losing that hour and having to make that adjustment. I just don't do well. I know there are some areas that do not do daylight savings time. And kudos to you. It does keep being brought up more and more often in the province where I live, particularly in the city that I live in, because the city I live in is very close to the central time zone. We are literally a 40-minute drive south to the Minnesota border, which is on central time, as well as roughly a 40-minute drive west to the central time zone in Northern Ontario, roughly in the area of Uppsala, Ontario, which I do have an interesting connection to. My family originated on my dad's side from Saskatchewan. However, they did end up in Uppsala, Ontario, which is a very tiny village. I'm not even sure if 200 people live there anymore. There was more than that at one point. But during World War II, when my grandfather was overseas, he married a Scottish woman. And when she came to Canada shortly before the war ended, she ended up living with my great-grandmother in, that's right, Uppsala, Ontario, because that's where my great-grandmother and her husband, my great-grandfather, had passed away and she remarried. That's where they were living at the time. They ended up in Dryden, Ontario. And when my grandfather came home, he joined them in Uppsala, and then they moved to my hometown. And the reason why they picked my hometown was the military put the highway in to my hometown and was helping soldiers who were looking for full-time work build the highway and then maintain the highway. So my grandfather, who drove farming equipment and operated farming equipment in his youth, operated a tank, or was part of the operations of a tank in World War II, and ended up driving a grader until his passing. So with that is a little story of daylight savings time and a tiny little fraction of my very interesting family history. I've got a lot of interesting characters in my background, and we're from all over the place if you start taking in all the immigration patterns to Canada in the last approximately 100 years. The majority of my family is technically still fairly new when you start kind of going into my ancestry. We start off with the Eight of Swords. Air energy being up in our heads. We're feeling trapped, but it is not an actual feeling. We're trapped in our minds. This is causing the Ten of Wands, which is a heavy burden. Tens are the end of the suit, which means carrying this heavy burden is about to end. Or at least we should be putting these burdens down, because it is time to put them down, because this suit is ending. We have more swords energy with the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords, she is intellectual. She's funny. She's smart. She has a sharp wit and a sharp tongue to go with it. It is feminine energy. So she is not as executioner type style like the King of Swords is, but I'm pretty sure she'd be happy to take over that role if it was required. Up next, we have the Seven of Pentacles, working diligently and waiting. We've been working really hard and we're waiting and waiting and waiting for the seeds to start showing signs of life, of whatever it was we planted, whether that was business, whether it was we sent out resumes weeks ago and we haven't heard, or we're waiting for our investments to grow. This is still some of the energy of the Hanging Man, whom we have seen in the last few days. There's a lot of waiting energy. From the bottom of the deck, I did pick 4 cards because they are relevant. We have the Queen of Cups. Now, the Queen of Cups is very nurturing. It is a bit of a rebirth type energy, as the Queen of Cups is usually depicted as being pregnant. This does not mean you are going to become pregnant. It just means you may be really nurturing the birth of something new, and that birth is imminent. Up next, we have the only major Arcana card. And again, this is from the bottom of the deck. So this is something that is playing out from underneath the currents. This is what's bubbling up to the surface and influencing the rest of the reading. The moon, which we just had the new moon in Pisces. So the watery energy is still really being felt. There's still a lot of emotions that are coming up to the surface. There's a lot of really shadowy type energy. Now, the moon is usually depicted as being a card that there's something being hidden in the shadows. Because this is a new moon, we are still feeling its energy because it just entered into its new moon phase early morning Saturday on March 13th, in case you're wondering about dates. But with this being a new moon, there is no light from the moon. So things seem a little bit darker, a little more mysterious, a little more secretive. And there is something that has yet to be revealed or is being hidden from us. And this is a card we have seen as well in the recent past. I believe it was yesterday. The Four of Swords. Having a rest, taking a break. It is the weekend. If you're not scheduled to work, allow yourself some time to go and play. Whether it is play with your children, play with your family, get outside if it's nice enough, and go for a walk and just enjoy your time. Give yourself a mental break. Give yourself an emotional break. Give this swirling thoughts in our minds. I'm getting into the body of the read here, by the way. There's a lot that is swirling around in our minds and we're feeling trapped. We're feeling crushed under this heavy burden. And it's time to cut these burdens away. It is time to start speaking up and speaking your truth. We're tired of waiting, but we are on the verge of birthing something new. We have to rest. We are coming up into the sun moving into Aries. We have, I believe it is Venus, also moving from Pisces into Aries. Aries season is the astrological new year. It is also falling on the spring equinox. So there's a lot of newness that is on the horizon. Whatever it needs to be seen is going to come up then. There is a big flip in energy coming around this time because of having several planets in Pisces moving into Aries. I've got some notes here. Mars is in Gemini, so we might be really kind of free will thinking, and that's where the Eight of Swords energy really comes in, is we're getting wrapped up in our minds. Mars is the planet of energy, drive and anger. So we may be feeling a little bit more easily ignited in our thoughts and ideas, which is good. We may be having some weird dreams because of this and a lot of synchronicities, but we do have that kick in the pants energy coming, but not for another week. So in the meantime, rest up, because once everything flips into Aries season, it's going to be go time. So rest up. Get ready, because once we start moving, we're not going to be stopping for a while. And I'm going to leave it here and talk to you tomorrow.